important decisions, sending a clear message to Ukraine that we stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes, and I expect allies also to reiterate their commitment to provide military support to Ukraine to help them liberate more land. On the membership issue, I also expect that allies will send a clear and positive message on the path forward towards membership for Ukraine. I have proposed a package of 3 elements with more practical support with a multi-year program to ensure full interoperability between the Ukrainian forces and the NATO forces. This will move Ukraine closer to NATO, to strengthen the political ties with the establishment of the NATO-Ukraine Council. We will have the inaugural meeting tomorrow with President Zelenski, and then to remove the requirement for membership action plan. This will turn the membership process for Ukraine from a 2-step process into a 1-step process. So all of this will send a positive and strong message. Then allies will also make important decisions to further strengthen our deterrence and defense with new defense plans and more forces on high readiness. We will also agree I also expect that allies will agree a more ambitious defense investment pledge, where 2% of GDP for defense will be a minimum. And then lastly, I look forward to also welcoming our Indo-Pacific partners at this summit. This will demonstrate that security is not regional, security is global, and therefore I welcome the partners from Australia, New Zealand, South Korea and Japan. And with that, I'm ready to take some questions.
Secretary General Steve Sedgwick, CNBC. Sir, security guarantees didn't stop Vladimir Putin in 2014. The Budapest Memorandum was worthless piece of paper to Vladimir Putin. What is concrete about the future security guarantees for Ukraine that will make a difference? And a second point, if I may, on the same issue. Ukraine has fears that perhaps security guarantees will change over time with different leaderships, perhaps a different presidency in the US. What kind of guarantees are there that security guarantees will outlast any changes of presidency in the United States? Thank you, sir.
Well, we all agree that the most imminent task now is to ensure that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe. So the most important thing we can do is to continue to provide weapons, ammunition, military support to Ukraine, because unless Ukraine prevails as a nation, as a democratic nation in Europe, there is no issue to be discussed about security guarantees or membership in NATO at all. Then on the membership issue, we will send a clear message, a positive message on the path forward. The text in the communique will be made public within hours later on today when all allies agree on the text. But I expect that allies will agree a message which is clear on the need to move Ukraine closer to NATO, with making sure that their forces are interoperable with the NATO-Ukraine Council, and also removing the requirement for a membership action plan. This is all about moving Ukraine closer to NATO membership, which will be extremely important for Ukraine, and also demonstrates the unity and the strength of the message that NATO allies are sending to Ukraine.
Accidents and nuclear security in the region is worsening. So we have the Russian forces occupying Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We have the announcement of Vladimir Putin to put Russian nuclear warheads in Belarus. What will be the reaction of NATO if some nuclear accident happens in Zaporizhzhia, or these nuclear warheads will be really placed in Belarus? What will be the response of NATO countries?
So, first of all, the nuclear rhetoric of Russia is dangerous and reckless, and Russia must know that a nuclear war can never be won and must never be fought. NATO allies are, of course, monitoring closely what Russia is doing. We condemn the announcement that Russia will deploy tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus. We are monitoring closely what they are doing. So far, we haven't seen any changes in the Russian nuclear deployments posture that requires any changes from our side, but we remain vigilant, and we will ensure that we, of course, are ready to protect and defend every NATO ally against any potential threat. On the situation in Zaporizhzhia, our message to Russia is that they had to withdraw their forces because the way they now behave in Zaporizhzhia is undermining the security of this biggest nuclear power plant in Europe.
Stoltenberg, one question on the membership language in the conclusions. Will the word invitation feature in the conclusions? And the second question, a few days ago, Mr. Zelensky said there was no point in coming to Vilnius if there was no concrete discussion and concrete thing that NATO could offer. What would that have meant to NATO, and now what is your feeling about this? Will he come?
President Zelensky will come. I'm glad to welcome him both at the dinner tonight and at the inaugural meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council tomorrow. NATO ally will send a strong, united, positive message on the path forward for Ukraine. But I will not go into the exact language now, because that will be made public when the communique with the text is agreed, and that will happen later on today. But rest assured, the message will be positive, the message will be strong, the message will be united from NATO allies. This is both about the path forward for membership, but also about the most imminent task, and that is military support. Because unless we ensure that Ukraine win this war, unless we ensure that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign independent nation, there is no membership issue to be discussed. So we have to understand the timelines, the tasks, and the first and the most imminent task is to ensure that Ukraine prevails and President Putin does not win this war.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary General, can you say something about the decisive issues in the last moments of the negotiations between Turkey and Sweden? How important were, for example, the F-16s probably arriving from the United States? And lastly, how relieved are you personally of this result?
Well, the agreement is public. You can see the statement, and that statement addresses the same issues that we agreed in Madrid. So the agreement yesterday, it builds on and is implementing the agreement that we reached last year in Madrid. So this is about stepping up the cooperation to fight terrorism, which is extremely important for Turkey, but also for all NATO allies. It's about the lifting restrictions on arms exports, and it's also about ensuring that this is a long-term continued cooperation between Sweden and Turkey also after accession. So there are no other agreements. The agreement is public, as the agreement was in Madrid, and the good news is that we have then paved the way for Sweden to become a full member. And I will thank President Erdogan. I also thank Prime Minister Kristersson for their constructive approach that enabled the decision yesterday to allow Sweden to become a full member, and for Turkey then to ratify the accession protocols for Sweden.
Regarding the agreement reached by Turkey and Sweden yesterday, I would like to ask, will NATO act as a guarantor, especially for promises made by Swedish side, new promises made, to be fulfilled not only before but after the ratification as well?
I'm absolutely confident that both Sweden and Turkey will adhere to the agreement, and also that this will continue after accession. And to ensure that, we actually established last year in Madrid what we call the permanent mechanism to ensure the continued cooperation on the fighting terrorism. And just the fact that we have met many times since Madrid to step up our cooperation in the fight against terrorism demonstrates that this is a lasting agreement and a lasting commitment that will also be there after Sweden joins the alliance.
A question on the bilateral or multilateral security guarantees, which are not part of the NATO, as I understand. Can you elaborate a little bit what they will contain, which countries will participate, and as of what time they will be valid? So is it only when there's a ceasefire, when the war is over? So, and will it be concluded here at the summit? Thank you.
At the NATO summit, we will agree a package for Ukraine with more practical support, with stronger political ties, and also decisions to move Ukraine closer to NATO membership. And the exact language will be available later on this today. Then some allies are also then having a bilateral or multilateral dialogue with Ukraine on a framework to have in place to ensure continued support for Ukraine. I think it would be wrong if I go into the exact language of that and also exactly how that will be made public. But of course, this will complement and supplement the decisions made at the NATO summit.
Secretary General, the question about potential Wagner mercenaries in Belarus. Are there any traces of their presence seen by NATO? Thank you.
The answer is no. So far, we haven't seen any deployment or movement of any Wagner forces into Belarus. But of course, again, we follow closely what's happening, and of course, for Lithuania, a neighbor, it matters. NATO is here. We are ready to defend against any potential threat, but so far we haven't seen any deployment of Wagner forces to Belarus.
Thank you, Ida Hallikainen from Ilta-Sanomat Finland. How do you feel, was Finland's and Sweden's ratification process too slow, and what kind of message will the membership send to Russia? Thank you.
This sends a very clear message to Russia, to President Putin, that NATO's door remains open. And that it is for NATO allies to decide on enlargement. Moscow, President Putin doesn't have a veto on NATO enlargement. And this is demonstrated by the fact that Finland is now already a full-fledged member, and that we yesterday agreed to also make Sweden a full member, that Turkey will ratify the accession protocols for Sweden. So this sends a clear and strong message, and also demonstrates that President Putin's war or aggression against Ukraine was a big strategic mistake. He totally underestimated the Ukrainians, he underestimated the unity of NATO allies, but he also underestimated the political consequences in countries like Sweden and Finland. He went to war because he wanted less NATO. He's getting more NATO military presence in the eastern part of the alliance, and 2 new members. Finland, already a member, and then Sweden, soon to become a member. So that just highlights the big strategic mistake that President Putin made when he invaded Ukraine. Let me also add that this has been the fastest accession process in NATO's modern history. That's obviously the case for Finland, which is already a member, but also for Sweden. So this has actually gone fast. You have to remember that Sweden and Finland applied for membership in May last year. All in June, all our allies invited both Finland and Sweden to become members. Then Finland was ratified a few months later, and Sweden obtained this invitee status after the decision in Madrid, and now also their accession will be ratified. So this has been fast, and that demonstrates the unity and the resolve and the commitment of NATO allies to demonstrate that NATO's door remains open.
Mark Serbia. Mr. Stoltenberg, Mr. President Vučić said that he will ask a meeting with you. Do we meet, and when? And why KFOR allows special units for Pristina in the north of Kosovo and Metohija, despite Serbians, and can do anything with that?
As I'm in regular contact with President Alexander Vučić, and of course I'm ready to meet. we are concerned about the increased tensions in Kosovo, and we call on all parties to de-escalate and to refrain from any action that can further increase tensions in the region. NATO is present in Kosovo. We have the KFOR forces there that are there to ensure security and stability for Kosovo and the people living in Kosovo. We execute our UN mandate in an impartial way, and NATO has increased its presence in Kosovo, added some 100 extra KFOR troops because of the instability and the violence and the tensions we have seen over the last weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
we are representing Norway at what proves to be a historic NATO summit. I would first say that few countries in NATO will be more touched by the fact that Sweden is now becoming a member. And for the first time in modern history, the entire Nordic region will be inside NATO. And that has profound positive implications for the way we plan our security, our defense, and how we will contribute positively to NATO. NATO is a threat to none. This is an organization of collective security which will be enhanced by Swedish membership. Secondly, it is historic because we will now approve updated regional plans and updated regional structure, command structure, and we will secure the funding of NATO operations. That is a result of hard work in the entire alliance. And finally, we will reconfirm our support to Ukraine. Norway has committed a 5-year program of support to Ukraine militarily and in the civilian and economic sphere. And we hope to see this meeting issue a very clear prospect to Ukraine that their future lies in NATO, that we enhance our cooperation, and at the first meeting of the Ukraine-NATO Council will underline that political dimension. So this is indeed an historic meeting, and we will make every effort to contribute, as Norway has since 1949. Well, I think this will be consistent with the pledge made in 2008. Ukraine has the prospect of becoming a part of the NATO family. While war is raging in Ukraine, we have to support every effort to end that war and that Ukraine can defend its sovereignty as a democratic free nation. And I think an invitation should be phrased in a way that when the time is right and allies agree, Ukraine can be allowed in.
Prime Minister, people are now saying with the inclusion of Sweden and Finland into NATO that we now have the Baltic as a so-called NATO leg. Do you feel there will be some retributions, more enhanced military activity from the Russians in response to the fact that, as you mentioned, Scandinavia is now complete, the Baltics and northern Germany and Poland in completing that NATO leg?
Think about it this way. We are all members of NATO, but we don't change as nations. Again, we are a threat to none. We want peace and stability in our region. The threat has come from Russia's aggression in Ukraine. That led Finland and Sweden to make historic decisions to join NATO. It took a bit more than a year when that was finalized. But we will still be Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland and Denmark from the Nordic perspective. We will be contributing to peace, stability and cooperation, but there also has to be solid defense and deterrence, and that has been as a result of Russia's aggression.
This is a historical meeting for my country. And you know, we are in close proximity to the neighbor Belarus, we are in close proximity to the battlefields in Ukraine,
so
and I think this is a symbolic event right now
we are now
in Vilnius,
Ukraine.
the NATO
We will
gathering
enhance cooperation
in
between
Vilnius and
Ukraine
taking
and
credible
NATO.
decisions.
And I think the
would say
perspective
that
of
our
Ukraine
meeting
having a future in NATO will be underlined. Well, there are discussions in the G7 sector of having security guarantees, assurances. That is outside NATO, but I expect that to be discussed also here at the summit. Thank you.
Meaning that we will not only repeat the mantra of officers of NATO, but also to show the clear pathway, how to proceed, how to find resources. And assign the necessary forces to have the prepositioning taking into account just a very tense situation in this region. You know, Lithuania is sandwiched between Belarus on the one hand and Kaliningrad, heavily militarized region of Kaliningrad. And this Suwalki gap is a small line, narrow line between those two adversaries. So we should not let our adversaries to cut off the NATO support coming, and we have to defend each inch of our territory, and I am just sure that we will be able to do that in unity, but the unity should be decisive. Unity should be productive, and I hope that Vilnius Summit will be the example of productive unity. Yes.
An invitation is Ukraine getting today?
I hope there will be invitation to proceed, not just open the doors of NATO right now, because then we have the discussion about the activation of Article 5, but very clear signal and not repeating the old formulas of Bucharest Summit. I think we will do more. First of all, we will remove member actions plans, maps. Then we will create institutional framework for closer cooperation between Ukraine and NATO, meaning that tomorrow we will have the meeting of Ukraine and NATO Council. So all this shows that we do enough in order to send a positive signal to our brothers and sisters, Ukrainians, and I hope that these decisions, these news coming from Vilnius will just increase the fighting spirit and moral spirit of them, and we will be persistent, we will be tough enough to support Ukraine until the victory.
Being done, President Alzada, is enough being done to support the eastern flank, to support Lithuania, Poland, all the Bucharest 9 countries from the bigger powers who are, quite frankly, slower to militarize?
Well, the support is there, but sometimes, of course, we would wish support comes faster. The decision making should be quicker, especially reacting to what is happening in the proximity of Lithuania, especially Belarus. And I mentioned to President Biden that Belarus really becomes issue. And this is not like Belarus in, let's say, in 2020. Now we should not have any illusions. This country is not independent anymore. This is one more gubernia of Russian Federation. So Russian military forces, the Belarusian territory is fully available for Russian military forces to plan the operations against Ukraine. The recent announcement that tactical nuclear weapons will be deployed on Belarusian soil is in the stage of implementation. We know that, and this is only the matter of time, then they will finalize it. Then instrumentalized migration is going on. Yes, this is not like it was 2 years ago, but still there. So all this as a complex shows that security situation in our region is not stable, it's not improving, it's deteriorating. And I hope that we will bring this news, this understanding to our allies, to our partners, and this will be one of the potential topics of our discussion today and tomorrow.
And Mr. President,
sorry, the line is waiting, so probably it will be possible to communicate, I think, in the future, but my colleagues are waiting for you. All the best.
continue, and we are in here for a long run support, and will continue supporting. Second topic obviously is in our unity is the fact that Sweden is joining us, and again it shows that NATO is the best guarantee for countries on the North Atlantic side of the world to have security guarantees, and we're extremely happy to have and Finland and now Sweden part of NATO.
Prime Minister, is an Indian army not an alternative to NATO then? A lot of people talk about it, some people talk about it as well. Do we need an EU army, or is NATO the right place for the West?
From our perspective, NATO really is the cornerstone of security on the North Atlantic side, and definitely in the European continent. What we see is that a lot of European countries are cooperating one with another. We're doing that with the Netherlands for our marine activities. We're doing that with France for our terrestrial activities. So we see that the integration is happening. Maybe even more important is the industrial cooperation that is happening, and that I think is something we don't talk often enough about. Is we are creating a European defense industry that is able to scale up in situations like this. Wait, I'll comment there. That there is found a solution for NATO to join, for Sweden to join NATO. Turkey is a partner, and we've been working on a lot of topics. For example, migration with Turkey, and it's quite clear that we will continue in doing so. If Turkey wants to increase the cooperation with European Union, obviously we're open for that, and we're open for the discussion. It looks like that there is a new degree of openness to open that discussion on the Turkish side. That's good. Let's talk and let's see what we can work together on. Well, it's definitely something that will be discussed in the European Council, but the Commission obviously has to play its role in it. And really, I wouldn't try to find a diversion between the Council and the Commission. I think we're quite united on that. C'est clair que l'Ukraine un jour fera partie de l'OTAN, et on voit que dans les conclusions qu'on discutera aujourd'hui, on offre cette perspective. On parle même d'une invitation de devenir membre au moment où tout le monde sera d'accord et naturellement les conditions seront remplies. Mais je pense que la vraie discussion importante aujourd'hui, ce n'est pas la perspective de devenir membre, elle le sera un jour, mais c'est quelle garantie de sécurité est-ce qu'on offre à court terme. Ça, chacun des pays, on fait beaucoup d'efforts. On sait que d'autres pays vont s'exprimer aujourd'hui et demain par rapport à des garanties de sécurité. Et en fait, ces trois éléments, c'est la perspective de devenir membre et les garanties de sécurité. C'est la conversation politique qui est créée avec ce conseil entre l'OTAN et l'Ukraine. Et c'est le support non létal que les pays de l'OTAN offrent. Oui, notre ambition, on a été clair par rapport à nos 2% avec la perspective de 2035. Quand on parle ici du fait que 2% doit être un effort soutenu, la Belgique souscrit ça complètement. All right.
We are having this historical summit. First of all, we are again reconfirming that Russia is the biggest threat to NATO's alliance. And for that threat, we need to adopt new defense plans. And many of you know that before the Madrid summit, I was explaining in human words how the plans really work, or the plans we had that time work in practice. So now I'm very glad that we got strong decisions out of Madrid, so that we moved from deterrence posture to defense posture. And today, hopefully, we're going to adopt the new defense plans that mean that we are able to defend our territory from the first moment, from the first centimeter. And this is very, very important. But what it requires from all of us is to invest more in defense. So this 2% of the defense investment pledge that we have given is very important, but it also is important that all the allies are doing this so that we can fulfill the plans with actual capabilities, and the troops are ready to defend the region. And this is all necessary that it would act as a deterrence. Just to bring you an example, in 1988, all the allies were making 2% of their GDP. They were investing in defense because the threat was real, and the threat is real today as well. Also, one of the questions that we are still debating is the Ukraine membership in NATO. Of course, we understand that it can't happen while the war is going on. We are listening very carefully for the worries that some of the allies have, and I think that we are going to reach a good compromise. That means that there will be a clear pathway for Ukraine to NATO membership, because NATO's membership is the only cheapest and actual working security guarantee there is. And if the war ends, then the opportunity window opens and Ukraine can join also NATO. And positive decisions regarding Sweden, we really welcome Sweden joining NATO. This means a lot for the whole security of our region, but also making NATO much stronger. Thank you. Of course, we can't draft Ukraine into NATO. We have to have concrete steps how Ukraine will get into NATO when the war is over. And therefore, we are working on those very practical steps. The first thing is the Ukraine NATO Council, and that is a clear way how to consult with the allies equally, because it works like the Article 4 for the allies works. And there are other steps as well, how to make everything happen so that when the conditions meet, we are ready to accept Ukraine.
Prime Minister, you said that security guarantees were arranged.
Of course, security assurance is knowing that those security assurances were given some time ago as well, and they didn't really function because the war is going on. So that now the G7 countries are thinking of providing the military assistance to Ukraine when the war is going on. And all the other allies can also join this pledge. G7 is the leading force because they are the biggest allies in NATO. My message to those countries who are not spending 2% yet is that the threat is real. I bring you this example. In 1933, our defense investment was record low because there was no political support for it. And in 1939, we wanted to increase the defense spending by 100%, but it was already too late. And with the defense spending, we can't act when the crisis is here. We have to act before, because that means procurement, that means production, and all of it. And when in 1988 all the allies were investing 2% to defense, it was because they felt that the threat is real. And now the threat is very real as the conventional war is going on. So I really urge all the allies to do it faster. This work has been very intense. I mean, the debates are going on all the time. We have 31 countries that are all democracies, and in democracies we debate, and we have reached already a good compromise and working on this as well. As I was mentioning, the NATO-Ukraine Council is the first step. Dropping the map is also one of the conditions, but also practical steps how to get to the membership. I mean, interoperability of equipment. Ukraine is using the equipment that the allies are giving and the ammunition, so it is already ticking those boxes. So what more can we do in order to really go to that membership? In political medium, we hear the worries that different allies have regarding the membership, but these are the same worries that were regarding us joining. And I just recently read the book about NATO's history, and it was very interesting how Germans at the time when the Visegrad countries were accepted didn't really want the Visegrad countries in, but then one of the representatives said that it's better that the Poles fight than the Germans fight the Russians. So here we have the Ukrainians fighting and not the Germans or Estonians or Americans. Just like the military plans are not public, so that the concrete plans regarding helping and defending Ukraine are also not public, because it depends on different allies what they can give to Ukraine to support. So this will be up to the allies to decide. Okay, thank you.
Non, mais là, c'est quoi y aller. La siffleuse de l'ordre libre. Il faut parler où dans le micro? C'est la caméra, la première caméra que vous voyez. C'est là la première. Là où il y a un micro, il y a une caméra. Ah, d'accord.
Well, yesterday we took a few very important, decisive steps towards the Swedish accession to NATO. We had very good conversations together with President Erdogan and Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, and we agreed on a joint statement. It's well known that Sweden, after 200 years of non-alignment, we seek common protection, but I also want all NATO allies to know that we also provide security, provide common security, and we are here for the long term. We are decisive in fighting terrorism, we're decisive in fighting organized crime, so I think Sweden has a lot to bring to the table as well. So I'm very happy with this result from yesterday, and now we look forward to the final two ratifications. Sven. Well, it's a well-known position from Sweden to have close ties between Europe and Turkey, so that's well known. And now we are promoting closer economic bonds, modernizing the customs union, providing better visa regulations and so forth. And I think there is a fertile ground for a closer cooperation. Well, I think it's, as I said, the Swedish position on cooperation between the EU and Turkey, that is decades long, so that's nothing new at all. And we just recently agreed within the EU on a wording that we, during the fall of this year, will restart talks about how to regain a better cooperation with Turkey. So nothing is new in that, I would say, but it's good. Yeah. Några svenska medier som vill någonting? I think I will stick to Jens Stoltenberg's wording from yesterday, as soon as possible. I think that's it gives the framework for the process ahead of us. I've talked quite recently with the Hungarian Prime Minister, so I feel very safe in his statements to me. Okay. Okay.
O tai ką jisai man padės? Dabar iškvietimo nėra. Padėti man nereikia, Giedriau, tai reikia tik tai, kad leizonai žinotų. Tai gerai, tai aš jums perduosiu jam neoficialiai, gerai, gerai, mes susitarėm. Gerai. Išvykimui tam buvo paruošta. Tai čia nuo atropanų. Aš einu žiūrėk. Atsistosiu kampe, kad to netrukdytų šitą gražios vietos. Savo laiku. Vėl operatorius. Jeigu tu reikės, tu dėl manęs, jeigu tu turi reikalų, tai savo reikalus tvarkyti. Eiti, aš tam sakau. pasižiūrėti tą... Jūs ištransliuokit savo poziciją, kad jokio veikimo negali būti per regioną. Ir dar va čia vienas dalykas būna kartais... Per toli atsistoja? Ne, per arti. Aš jums sakiau, palapinės kampas. Kai vienas čia atsistojo už tą... Gerai, aš ten pas parodysiu, trupučiu padėsiu. Ne, tai šitą stovi mūsų. Gerai. O šitas išlipa iš mašinų ir žiopso. Aš jums sakiau tavo stebėti, išlipti tam, kad stebėtų tave. Ką tu darai, ar tu davai, ar davai. Nu tai, bet ne tą reikia. Šiaip jie galėtų, kai mūsų žmogus ten yra priekį, ten vos negalėtų sukurti mašiną ir vilniaus sprendimas, nes apsvažius. Sėdi mašinai, tavo žmogus pasitrauks nuo kėdės, kad stebėtų Anėlino pylimo vas pareigūnus. Jo veiksmas. Geriausiai. Ir stojam tolimiausiam kampe baltos. Čia priėjimo metu. Tai aš tada ten atsistoju į tą dalyką pabaigti. Gal padėti. Kad vardų nebuvo. Gerai, jau atėjau aš tikrai, mano atėjus metalo. Tai gerai, tada aš traukiuosi iš žurnalistų. Gerai, einasi. Tu manęs nepastavėsi. Gerai.
Možemo. Pa evo, samit se održava u izazovnim okolnostima za evropsku bezbjednost, ali upravo u takvim okolnostima NATO pokazuje jedinstvo, kredibilnost i relevantnost. Nastavljamo podršku Ukrajini, posvećeni smo Ukrajini i na taj način i podižemo u okviru ovoga samita dijalog između NATO i Ukrajine na više nivo, formiranjem savjeta NATO-Ukrajina, čime dodatno pružamo perspektivu ukrajinskom članstvu u NATO savezu. Također očekujem i jedan sveobuhvatan paket podrške, finansijske podrške Ukrajini u narednom periodu, u okviru koga će naravno Crna Gora također i učestvovati. Jedan od glavnih ishoda ovog samita je i jačanje strategije odvraćanja i odbrane, između ostalog i kroz usvajanje regionalnih planova odbrane. Posvećeni smo izdvajanju za odbranu u nivou 2% BDP-a. Zadovoljan sam što će Crna Gora već ostvariti ove godine upravo taj cilj. Tako da također mislim da će biti riječi i o situaciji na Zapadnom Balkanu. Ponovit ću ulogu koju Crna Gora ima, a to je uloga punopravne članice NATO-a i na taj način dodatno promovisanja stabilnosti i mira. I još jedna stvar koja je vrlo važan rezultat ovog samita, to je jačanje partnerstva između NATO članica i zemalja Indo-Pacifika, između ostalog Japana, Južne Koreje, Australije i Novog Zelanda, a u kontekstu dodatno velikih globalnih izazova u dijelu odbrane i bezbjednosti. Pa upravo ja očekujem da u okviru ovog samita se negdje dijalog između NATO-a i Ukrajine podigne na veći nivo formiranjem savjeta između NATO-a i Ukrajine i na taj način dodatno nakon samita iz Bukurešta iz 2008. godine dodatno pružimo jednu perspektivu Ukrajini kao budućoj NATO članici. Tako je, pa ove godine će negdje fokus biti na to da neće više biti samo cilj dostizanje 2% izdvajanja u odnosu na BDP za odbranu, nego će to upravo biti negdje najmanji dio koji treba izdvajati. Crna Gora već ove godine će ispuniti taj cilj. Znate da mnoge druge članice još uvijek nisu došle do toga cilja, tako da Crna Gora u tom smislu ima jednu dobru startnu poziciju. Pa mi smo svi srećni što je upravo ovaj samit, prvi samit na kome Finska učestvuje kao punopravna članica, a upravo su i jučer došle dobre vijesti sa sastanka između predsjednika Erdogana i predsjednika vlade Švedske, gdje je odmrznut proces ratifikacije ulaska Švedske u NATO, tako da ja očekujem da to u turskom parlamentu ubrzo bude i okončano, čime će Švedska postati još jedna 32. punopravna članica NATO alijanse. Mislim da svaka zemlja ima svoje pravo da bira svoju spoljnu politiku i da građani iz svake od tih zemalja su izabrali i to je to što imam tu da kažem. Zahvaljujem. Pa mislim da Crna Gora tu zaista igra jednu dobru ulogu zemlje koja promoviše mir i stabilnost. Zabrinuti smo sa situacijom i tenzijama na sjeveru Kosova. U potpunosti podržavamo deeskalaciju sukoba i dijalog između Beograda i Prištine u okviru platforme koju je trenutno predstavila Europska unija. To sam upravo i rekao predsjedniku Vučiću i nadam se da će uskoro u potpunosti doći do rešenja na koristi Beograda i Prištine. Zahvaljujem.
Como saben ustedes, también vamos a tener y vamos a contar con la participación de todos los Estados miembros de la Unión Europea y también del Indo-Pacífico, donde vamos a, lógicamente, poder evaluar y también valorar la situación geopolítica en esa zona del mundo. En fin, venimos con el ánimo de reconocer, en primer lugar, el trabajo bien hecho por parte del Gobierno de Lituania. En segundo lugar, reconocer también y valorar el compromiso del secretario general de la OTAN, Stoltenberg, por mantenerse un año más. Y finalmente, anunciar ese compromiso del Gobierno de España en el despliegue y en el refuerzo de nuestra presencia en el frente oriental, primero en Rumanía y con nuevas tropas en Eslovaquia. Y a partir de aquí, si quieren, respondo a dos preguntas y luego ya mañana.
¿Qué análisis hace del debate anoche? ¿Con esta cercanía cree que le sirvió para dar un golpe a los periodistas?
A ver, yo creo que los ciudadanos lo que merecen es escuchar propuestas, es escuchar cuál es el balance que se hace durante estos últimos 4 años de mandato, en este caso mío como presidente del Gobierno, y en segundo lugar cuáles son las propuestas de futuro. Eso es lo que hice como... Un momentito, me está... Entonces el planteamiento fue ese, ¿no? Hacer un balance y también propuestas de futuro. Lo hice en las pensiones, lo hice en el mercado laboral, lo hice también en todo lo que representan los derechos y libertades de las mujeres y del colectivo LGTBI. En fin, enfrente que tuvimos, bueno, pues tuvimos a un señor Feijóo que ante la absoluta ausencia de proyecto político y de programa, pues lo que hizo fue, bueno, pues plantear una montaña de mentiras. El uso descarnado, como hemos visto durante estos últimos años, de un terrorismo, el de ETA, que desapareció afortunadamente porque lo venció la democracia española hace 11 años y, por tanto, yo salgo satisfecho de este debate. Creo que ha sido un debate donde se han clarificado muchas cosas y, sobre todo, lo que ha quedado meridianamente claro es que quien tiene un proyecto de país, de presente y de futuro, es el Partido Socialista y no el señor Feijóo.
Prime Minister, really good to see you. Steve Sedgwick from CNBC, sir. In terms of Europe paying for its own defence, it's something that various US administrations have berated you, have berated the Germans, have berated many for. Is Europe willing to not only talk about spending more, but actually spend more on its own defence?
We're actually talking and we're actually spending more in defence, not only on the total amount, but also on the investment package. So I think it's important, it is crucial to reinforce and strengthen our ties, our collaboration with the European Union strategy on defense and also the NATO goals and the NATO commitments that we reached and we assumed in Wales some years ago. La última, venga. Yo estoy satisfecho, soy un político con convicciones, soy un político con determinación, soy un político que escucha, pero que también responde, sobre todo que responde ante las falsedades que se vierten ante el crecimiento económico, el número de trabajadores autónomos. Es que hasta incluso el señor Feijóo dijo que habían aprobado la revalorización de las pensiones, cosa que fue mentira. En definitiva, una montaña de mentiras porque no hay detrás nada. Lo que hay es una ausencia total de proyecto político y también diría una inquietante táctica por parte del señor Feijóo de abrazarse al señor Abascal, al partido de Vox. Y esto es al final lo que nos estamos jugando el próximo 23 de julio. Ayer lo dije. El próximo 23 de julio no nos estamos jugando una mera alternancia como ha ocurrido en otras elecciones a lo largo de nuestra democracia. Nos estamos jugando por primera vez si España continúa avanzando como lo hemos hecho durante estos últimos 40 años de democracia o nos metemos en un túnel tenebroso del tiempo donde no sabemos exactamente dónde nos podría llevar tanto el señor Feijóo como el señor Abascal. Yo por eso estoy confiado con el resultado electoral del 23 de julio. Creo que la sociedad española va a seguir apostando por el avance, que va a decir que no al retroceso, a esta involución del Partido Popular con Vox, y en ese contexto yo desarrollé todos mis argumentos, las propuestas de presente y de futuro, y enfrente lo que vimos fueron, pues eso, mentiras, insultos y una utilización lamentablemente descarnada de un terrorismo, el de ETA, que afortunadamente la democracia española derrotó hace ya muchos años. En fin, nos vemos la próxima mañana. Me parece que tenemos rueda de prensa y bueno, pues espero que puedan ustedes también disfrutar de esta ciudad. Gracias.
After more than 500 days of war that Russia is waging in Ukraine, NATO allies are coming together once again here in Vilnius, and I'm convinced that coming out of the summit today and tomorrow, NATO will be becoming even stronger. We're going to be approving very important NATO defense plans. These are plans that say how we will be able to defend every inch of NATO territory from the very first minute. Very important plans that we'll be adopting. Second, the strengthening of the eastern flanks, the commitments which were made last year in Madrid, they're now coming to fruition. As yesterday in Latvia, Latvia and Canada signed a bilateral roadmap indicating exactly how we will be moving up in Latvia to a brigade-size combat-capable force of the EFP. This is being duplicated throughout the eastern flank. And from Latvia's side, of course, we are making serious investments in our own defense. We're planning on hitting 3% of spending on defense in 2027. My finance minister says that if we move forward with the advanced weapons purchases, we could hit 3% as early as next year. So we have reintroduced conscription to increase the size and the capability of our armed forces. We are purchasing 3 new weapon systems simultaneously. This is air defense, coastal defense, and the HIMARS, the rocket artillery. And we are developing a new additional 25,000 hectare large training area in the south of Latvia to complement all the other training areas and to be able to, of course, to host the additional NATO forces which are present. I think it's very important that we all recommit to the 2% floor, but I think as we look to the future, it's quite clear that 2% will probably not be enough, and we will have to go above and beyond as Latvia is already doing. And finally, the big question, I think, on many people's minds is Ukraine. From my point of view, it's very clear that for peace and lasting stability in Europe, we need Ukraine to be part of NATO. Russia only understands strength, and we must be strong, and that wall must be very clear, and that wall would mean that Ukraine is within the NATO family. Regarding the next couple of days, I think it's important that we take some concrete steps to move in this direction, that it's very clear that this direction is being undertaken, and that we as NATO allies send a strong enough signal to our Ukrainian friends and partners. Not only do we need to, of course, to continue to supply them with ammunition, with weapons, with money, with humanitarian aid for as long as it takes for them to win this war, but we have to think seriously about what happens afterwards and how to ensure a lasting peace. I'm convinced that's the only way to secure that lasting peace. But today, I'm convinced that as we go into the room, we will come out even stronger than we are today.
Prime Minister, is there an appetite from European nations to get to the 2%? I hear your aspirations for bigger north of that. I see what the Poles are doing. I see what the United States and other nations are doing. The largest nations in Europe are struggling to get to 2%. I talk about Germany namely as well. How do we reach 2%, let alone get to 3%?
Well, many things have changed in the past year. So the German government indicated their Zeitenwende, which includes a 100 billion euro investment package for defense. These monies are now starting to come into the system. When these monies are in, they will be at the 2%. So the German is, of course, we need to see all of that come in. But the thinking around the room, around the table has changed since everyone sees that Russia is not only a theoretical threat, it is a very real threat right on our doorstep. And we must be strong, and Russia must understand that we are not only strong in words, but strong also in capabilities. My stance is that I think it's important that we move in clearly in
gentlemen, this is a very important summit because we are starting new regional defense plans for the eastern flank of the alliance. For Slovakia is very important. Predictable, coordinated air defense mechanism. I'm very glad that we have progress when it comes to Sweden membership in NATO, and I expected the concrete progress when it comes to future membership of Ukraine. Pre slovenské médiá som veľmi rada, že sa zúčastňujem tohoto summitu, pretože je veľmi významný z hľadiska obrany, najmä obrany, protizdušnej obrany na východnom krídle aliancie, ktoré je slovenskou súčasťou. Pre Slovensko je veľmi dôležitý, predvídateľný a koordinovaný mechanizmus protizdušnej obrany. Som veľmi rada, že nastal progres, pokiaľ ide o švédske členstvo v Severoatlantickej aliancie a moje očakávania sú samozrejme spojené aj s konkrétnym posunom, pokiaľ ide o budúce členstvo Ukrajiny v Severoatlantickej aliancii. Ďakujem veľmi pekne.
þetta bara gleðilegt að það var greitt úr þessu máli á í raun og veru lokametrunum fyrir þennan fund, því það leit nú ekki gæfilega út í gærmorgun þegar fregnir bárust, en gleðiefni, ekki síst fyrir norræna samstöðu. Norðurlöndin hafa staðið algjörlega saman í þessu máli og við fögnum því hér að Svíar hafi fengið þetta loforð frá Tyrkjum. Það á náttúrulega eftir að koma í ljós hvort eitthvað meira felst í þessu, en Svíar hafa bent á að þeir hafa staðið við allt það sem þeir sögðust alltaf að gera hér þegar þeir lögðu fram aðildarumsóknina á sínum tíma. Ísland mun hafa bara óbreytta afstöðu, styðja rétt Úkraínu til að taka eigin ákvarðanir og við teljum að það séu alla líkur á því að það verði mjög skýrt orðalag sem komi frá þessu fundi. Ég er að minnsta kosti bjartsýn á það. Nú heyri ég ekki. Við má segja að við höfum bara verið með okkar eigin afstöðu í þessu máli sem er að við sýnum því skilning að Úkraína er ekki að ganga inn á þessum fundi. Það liggur algjörlega fyrir. En við viljum líka senda skýrari skilaboð umfram það sem hefur verið kallað yfirlýsing í anda Búkarest. Við viljum senda skýrari skilaboð en svo. Já, ég fylgist bara mjög vel með. Það er þannig að það braust bara út gos þegar ég millilendi í Ríga í gær, þannig að ég bara fylgst vel með og verið í nánu sambandi við jarðvísindamenn og Veðurstofuna síðan. Og við sem betur fyrir búið að vinna gríðarlega mikla vinnu í að kortleggja innviði og annað á Reykjanesskaganum, þannig að við erum vel undirbúin og sem betur fyrir lítur þetta í lagi út núna, en við vitum líka hlutinni geta breyst hratt. Þannig að við bara fylgjumst með. Takk. Hæ.
about how much money are you willing to spend on NATO and on our national defense systems. This is crucial. But more importantly, even, this summit will be about Ukraine. And I'm convinced that we will stand united again against the Russian aggression. So I'm really excited about this summit. Two very important subjects. These are two very different organizations, and the EU has its own way of dealing with accession, which is a clearly defined path of steps you have to take. With NATO it is different. So there are intense talks between Ukraine and NATO, and I'm sure that tomorrow when President Zelensky is here, we will come to very fruitful discussions with him. And the most important thing now for Ukraine is the security guarantees they need longer term, including individual countries like my own, the Netherlands, willing to, within this security umbrella, to make sure that we take the necessary measures. For example, in my case, the Netherlands, F-16s, the Patriot systems. So this is what we have to work on the coming days. Again. No, not 2 months ago. 2 months ago it was announced that the United States agreed with the training, and now we are working very hard with the Danes, with Romanians and others to make sure that it will start. Thank you. What Ukraine is offered, clearly at the moment, is the Ukraine NATO Council, which is a big step. To skip the map in-between stage, which is typically part of the accession process, and now it has been decided not to use that in-between step, so that will speed up the process. And we will do everything to make sure that Ukraine, in terms of its defense systems, is fully compatible with NATO. So all these issues we will make big progress these days. And I believe that unity will be the big word here, that Ukraine will feel it is part of this family, and that we step by step have to make sure that Ukraine gets what it wants, which is the security guarantees and the long-term commitment. Thank you so much.
Lithuania. I mean, the whole thing is so different. It's all stuff scattered out. There's lots of Two minutes, folks.
So we already have?
Losing your credibility.
President Biden, dear Joe, welcome to the NATO summit, and many, many thanks for your strong leadership making this alliance united and even stronger. This summit is already historic because the agreement we made yesterday will make Sweden a full member of NATO. And that will make our alliance even more capable of defending all allies. At this meeting, we will also send a clear message to Ukraine that we stand by them as long as needed, and also that we agree on a united and positive message on the path forward for Ukraine and membership for Ukraine. Another major message from this summit will be that we need to invest more in our defense. And we will agree a new defense investment pledge, where we state clearly that 2% of GDP for defense is a minimum. The good news is that European allies and Canada are stepping up. This year we have new numbers showing that they have added 8.3% in real terms for their defense budgets. This is record high, and that demonstrates that allies are delivering on their commitments. So once again, Mr. President, it's great to have you here at the NATO summit.
It's good to be here, and thank you. Continue to deliver. As I've made no mistake, the press is not at all surprised. I've been touting the fact that I think it's really important at this critical moment in Ukraine, in the whole NATO issue, that you continue to lead NATO. You're trusted. No one knows the situation that we're facing better than you do. And this is a historic moment. The adding of Finland and Sweden to NATO is consequential, and your leadership really matters. And we agree on the language that we proposed, that you proposed, relative to the future of Ukraine being able to join NATO. And we're looking for a continued united NATO. They've heard me say, my American president heard me say many times, I still think that President Putin thinks the way he succeeds is to break NATO. I'm not going to do that, especially with you as the leader. So thank you for willing to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
you all.
Mr. President, what is your role in getting Turkey to agree? Mr. President, why weren't you at the signing
Son Excellence, Monsieur Xavier Bettel, Premier ministre du Grand-Duché de Luxembourg. Son Excellence, Monsieur Emmanuel Macron, Président de la République française. The Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada. Her Excellency Ms. Kaja Kallas, Prime Minister of the Republic of Estonia. Son Excellence, Monsieur Alexandre De Croo, Premier ministre du Royaume de Belgique. His Excellency, Mr. Krišjānis Kariņš, Prime Minister of the Republic of Latvia. His Excellency, Mr. Jonas Gahr Støre, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Norway. Her Excellency, Ms. Katrín Jakobsdóttir, Prime Minister of the Republic of Iceland. His Excellency, Mr. Nikolai Denkov, Prime Minister of the Republic of Bulgaria. His Excellency, Mr. Petr Pavel, President of the Czech Republic. His Excellency, Mr. Jakov Milatovic, President of Montenegro. His Excellency, Mr. Mark Rutte, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. His Excellency, Mr. Andrzej Duda, President of the Republic of Poland. His Excellency, Dr. Robert Golob, Prime Minister of the Republic of Slovenia. His Excellency, Mr. Dimitar Kovachevsky, President of the Government of the Republic of North Macedonia. His Excellency Mr. Zoran Milanovic, President of the Republic of Croatia. Her Excellency Ms. Giorgia Meloni, President of the Council of Ministers of the Italian Republic. The Right Honourable Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. His Excellency Mr. Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. Her Excellency Ms. Mette Frederiksen, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Denmark. Especially me.
We were actually at the request of us waiting.
His Excellency Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Prime Minister of the Hellenic Republic. His Excellency Mr. Sauli Niinistö, President of the Republic of Finland. His Excellency Mr. Edi Rama, Prime Minister of the Republic of Albania. His Excellency Mr. Pedro Sanchez, President of the Government of the Kingdom of Spain. Her Excellency Ms. Zuzana Čaputová, President of the Slovak Republic. His Excellency Mr. Klaus Werner Johannes, President of Romania. His Excellency Mr. Antonio Costa, Prime Minister of the Portuguese Republic. His Excellency Mr. Ulf Kristersson, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Sweden. His Excellency Mr. Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary. His Excellency Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey.
tai kartus nelabai normaliai. Taip, kažkokie tokie amžiai lietuviški. Gal, nes pagrindinis jau taip žiūrėjo, žinot, pakabinęs. Laukimas. Matau, bet dabar užuoju. Nu, pasiruošti.
The Honorable Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America.
tolerant.
We just shrunk NATO to
Your Excellencies, for the family photo, we would invite you to look in the central camera for 8 seconds. Thank you.
Ja, men det ser jeg på to. Ja, bare sånn du vet. Ja. Good afternoon. I think we are ready to start. If you all can find your seats, then we will start this summit. So, once again, good afternoon. Welcome to all of you to this NATO summit. Many thanks to our host, Lithuania, and to you personally, President Nausėda, the Gitanas, for hosting all of us. And let me also welcome President Niinistö, who have been at many NATO summits before, but this is the first NATO summit where you actually attend as a full-fledged member. So welcome to you, Sauli. And then also a warm welcome to Prime Minister Kristersson. Following the agreement yesterday, we will soon also be welcoming Sweden as a full-fledged member. So welcome to you. Today we will make many decisions for an even stronger alliance. We will increase our practical and political support to Ukraine. This will bring Ukraine closer to NATO, where it belongs. We'll also take bold steps to further strengthen our deterrence and defense, including new plans and forces for the defense of the Euro-Atlantic area. And we will agree a more ambitious defense investment pledge. Let me now pass the floor to our host, President Nausėda, for his opening statement. Please, Gitanas, you have the floor.
Dear Jens, my dear friends, allies, it's my honor and great pleasure to welcome you all in Vilnius. Welcome to Lithuania. Lithuania, where freedom has never been taken for granted, where values have always been stood for, where allies are always welcome and cherished. Lithuania is a country where the principle one for all and all for one bears a very special meaning and is carried deep in our hearts. Today the most brutal war is being waged by Russia against sovereign and independent Ukraine, at the doorstep of NATO. Today, allies are meeting in Vilnius to testify to the importance of collective solidarity and defense. Also, to take bold decisions on how to strengthen allied security and defense, help Ukraine to win, and boost our partnerships with like-minded countries in other regions. Unity, solidarity, and the transatlantic bond are irreplaceable pillars of our success. Dear friends, let me wish us all productive discussions and wise decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President. This ends the public part of the meeting. I thank the media for joining us at the top of the meeting, and we'll continue in just a moment. Thank you so much.